Hello everybody, here we are today continuing on with our playoff previews today, covering the matchup between the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. So before we start with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So how exactly did we get here? We got here with the Dallas Stars putting together a very good season where they cracked over 50 wins and they were able to be the top team in the Western Conference. This is a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations. We're all aware of that, and Dallas is well suited to be able to go on a run. And I think a lot of fans in Texas are going to be very excited to see what happens here in the playoffs if they get out of this first round with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, Vegas is going to be a very tough matchup. Maybe they didn't perform the way they wanted to this year. They had a ton of injuries, but they still finished with 98 points and are able to say that they could defend their Stanley Cup championship from last season. And that leads us to their third playoff appearance against each other in the past 5 seasons, meaning we get to talk about now what are some playoff matchups in this series. So the first storyline is, can Vegas handle Dallas's waves? And what I mean by that is the fact that Dallas has just been able to score a ton of goals this year. 8 players that have scored 20 goals or more on the season. There's a lot of players that can give you the goal scoring you need, and you're not just relying on one person to get the job done. That's going to be very difficult for the Golden Knights to deal with, because how do you prepare for a team that's been able to throw out so many lines that have been able to outscore the opposition? That kind of remains to be seen. Looking at some of these lines, you have the Ben, Stankoven, and Johnston line. That is the third line. They've outscored teams 15-9 in their time together in 226 minutes, and it's not even just them. There's other guys. I mean, even looking at the projected fourth line of Steele, Foxa, and Smith, they have a positive goal differential. You love to see that from your fourth line. And of course, their top line of Robertson, Pavelski, and Hintz have been playing incredibly well too. Big shocker there. Their top pairing defensemen, where you're looking at Thomas Harley, and then of course Miro Heiskanen, have looked amazing, which gets you really excited thinking about this team. They have a plus 16 goal differential, and is just part of all the things we've talked about, pushing you to the realization that this team is just gifted. They've got old players playing well, budding stars, young players playing unexpectedly well, and then just some underrated guys, like again that fourth line playing really, really well. Craig Smith was a player that a few years ago you expected to play a bigger role for a team, but to be able to go out there and produce on the fourth line, that is not a bad deal. You even have Nils Lundqvist, that is a former first-round pick that is still really young, playing in a third pairing role for the team, just kind of going to show how deep this group really is. I think that looking at this team, it's just crazy to see all the names that are going to be thrown out there for the lines and seeing how good they will probably end up playing. I think that I'm not going to go out there and say that this is an all-time great team by any stretch of the imagination just yet, unless they're just like dominant in the playoffs. However, I will say this, I'm more impressed with there being 32 teams in the league, a lot of these clubs trying to poach other teams' talent, the fact that they're able to have 4 lines, and you're looking at 3 pairings that are really good and a good goalie. It's just beautiful to see, I guess, is how I look at it, because you see a lot of very incomplete teams where teams just are very, overpowered, or maybe they aren't filled with a lot of high-end talent. They're good. They've been able to draft well, and it's all coming together. Vegas knows they're good too. And the second talking point is whether or not the Vegas Golden Knights are juggernauts or jokers. This is a team that, again, last year won the championship and dealt with the most man games lost this year through injuries. Had they been healthy, they probably would have competed for the division title. And a lot of people going into the year thought they would be a team that could go out there and possibly even win the Pacific. Injuries kind of just seem to be sticking with Vegas over this time. But I think looking at this team, you kind of wonder a bit, are we overvaluing them because of what they have on paper for the lineup? Because we're not even getting to see that a lot of times. I mean, you even look at some of the guys that they brought in, like Anthony Mantha and Thomas Hertl. They have missed games. Now, Mantha, it's not been a whole lot, and Hertl was expected to miss with a surgery that he had with the Sharks. But you're just constantly looking at the injury list, and you're going to these websites and seeing all the names that are going to be out on any given night. And for Vegas, it is just unimaginable, I guess, to look at this and see that they were still able to get to the playoffs and nearly hit 100 points. And I guess that's kind of my counter argument to a lot of people saying that, oh, they are overrated. They're still having all these great players, and they didn't even, have a year where they finished as top 3 in their division. Like I said, a lot of injuries, a lot of things that they had to deal with, a lot of new guys that were brought in, and I would say that, well, I'm not going to go out and give them the juggernaut status at the moment. Anybody that thinks this team is bad is probably not a big fan of them, or they probably just aren't as interested in the sport on a day-to-day basis. The Golden Knights, when you look at them, and you can even see when they are injured, still have a good forward group. They have a blue line that, especially when it's healthy, has got so many big name players and a duo in net that fills you with confidence for the most part. You know, Logan Thompson had a really good year last year. Adin Hill ended up winning them the Stanley Cup. So I see a team that, yes, underperformed, but it's not just that they underperformed for no reason. There's many things going along here, and I would say that they're closer to being a juggernaut than they are to being jokers. And then the final talking point is whether or not Vegas got enough time to gel. Now, the Golden Knights, with all these injuries, ended up seeing even some of their star players missing some time. You're looking at Jack Eichel, Liam Karlsson, and Alex Pietrangelo all failing to crack 70 games on the season. Looking at a guy like Mark Stoney, only played 56 games. He's going to be back, off LTIR for the playoffs, as a lot of people are unhappy there. We've already talked about that as well. Shea Theodore didn't even crack 50 games played on the year. And it's just a team that, while they have played together for a long time, it takes a minute to build up the chemistry in a season. It takes repetition. It takes going through, camp. It takes going through the lull of the season. And when you guys are constantly dealing with players that are out of the lineup or guys that miss huge times, they got to get in game shape. They got to be able to, adjust to if schemes have changed or anything like that, and they have to build that chemistry. So I do see this as a potential problem. And like I said, there's been the other guys that were brought in. Mantha has missed a couple games. Hurdle has only played 5 games for the team. Mind you, has 4 points in that time. And I believe Hannafin did end up missing some time with him. Obviously, he signed an extension, so that's kind of cool to be able to know you have that long-term financial security. But looking at that, you kind of have to wonder, are they going to play well? Are they have any kind of chemistry, I guess, with this team for the playoffs, as you get to play a side in Dallas that is very good? I don't really know. I'm not saying that all these players will play poorly, and I do think that some of these absences are going to be more impactful than other ones. Hurdle, especially coming back from that surgery, is going to be really weird to see if he's going to be able to be full strength for the playoffs and go. I could see maybe at the end of all this, whether they get knocked out in the first round and go on to win the Cup, talking about maybe how his knee wasn't 100%. And for Dallas, they've been a much healthier side in terms of not missing as many games with injuries. And I could see this series especially being decided by team chemistry. So overall, what are my thoughts on this series? I gotta be honest, I think this series has the potential to be really fun because there could be an upset. Last year, these were two teams that you thought maybe they were going to go out there and win the Stanley Cup. Vegas did, and Dallas was there in the Western Conference Final. This year, if you are high on Vegas, you could see this as a series with 2 potential Stanley Cup winners, and I am fine if you feel that. And with the playoff history that these two teams have shared over the years, they usually play meaningful games later in the year, but here they are now in the first round, which I think does set the stage for something really interesting, where you either have the top team in the Western Conference knocked out in the first round, big upset there, or you have the previous champions in Vegas knocked out in the first round, meaning that after the first round, there is going to be a new champion with 3 rounds to go. You have no idea who that's going to be. 8 teams that you could guess, but we will see. And so with that being said, what is my pick for the series? I'm going to be picking the Dallas Stars in 7 games. Now, I look at this and I could see people saying, oh, they're going to, beat Vegas in 5 or something like that. I'd rather overvalue Vegas than have them go out there and pull off an upset in like 5 or 6 games. I do see them as a team that is dangerous. I don't want Dallas to overlook them. If you are a Stars fan, don't just, talk smack to Vegas fans in case anything bad happens here. But I do see Dallas being the side that is hot in the playoffs, going to the playoffs. Vegas, especially in their past 15-ish games, had some moments where things weren't looking pretty. The Blues were at a spot where maybe if things had gone a little bit differently, they could have been the team in that final wildcard spot. And the Stars just probably have a lot of motivation after being knocked out by the Golden Knights last year in the Western Conference Final, knowing they kept them out of the Stanley Cup Final, possibly where they could have won the championship. And I would like to add too that Vegas has got a little bit of a harder time figuring out who they want to start in net. Adin Hill has been a little bit shaky as of late, so you're probably thinking Logan Thompson. Again, looking at some of these injuries, I'm seeing a lot of day-to-day things, so I'd imagine they're all going to be fine. Just kind of one of those deals where you're managing the team as the season winds down, but Jake Ottinger for Dallas is going to be the starter. And I do believe in Jake. I know that at the beginning of the year things weren't perfect, but things have been able to get better as of late for him. And the team won 10 of 11 games to clinch the Central, to clinch the top spot in the West. They're good. They've got the goalie situation figured out, as well as like basically everything else. So I imagine they're going to win. I do apologize if I seem tired. I am running on 2 hours of sleep in over 24 hours. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a baby. I'm not like some of you guys where you're tough. I try to get 6 hours of sleep every night. And I'm running on fumes here, and I got to do one more preview after this. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.